Okay, so the economy. If you just open your eyes and look around, you can clearly tell that in the West, the economy is not really doing well. Like most people struggle very hard to find jobs. A lot of young people can't find a job at all. Wages are kind of in the gutter, but somehow the stock market seems to still be doing well. Like GDP is still growing in a bunch of countries. It feels like you're being gaslit when you hear people talking about how the economy is strong or resilient when everyone is basically feeling like they're in a recession. And I think we have completely reached at this point the disconnect between the economy numbers, the GDP and the stock market, and like the actual real economy. To quickly touch on the subject of GDP, I don't think it's like complete BS. Obviously, the economists who invented GDP, they knew what they were doing, and they really put a lot of effort in to create a good way to measure the economy, the size of the economy. I mean, there's other ways like purchase power parity, stuff like that. So I don't think GDP is like complete garbage measurement, but at this point, for decades, we have basically taken GDP as synonymous with the economy, as if it's the same thing. And in cases like this, the measurement becomes the goal. So GDP is a way to measure the economy, to put it into numbers. But I think politicians and a lot of powerful people have basically assumed that GDP and the economy is the same thing. So everything that grows GDP also grows the economy and is good for the economy. And I think that's not the case. And by following that, we have created some very, very dangerous and perverse incentives. Because if you think about the economy, there's an actual physical economy. Like there are actual physical things being produced, and I think that is the base for any economy. Like if you think about it, like who is making the most money? Like a bunch of AI companies being related to AI, like Nvidia is making a bunch of money selling their graphics cards to run some AI BS on it. But now, if you look at what people actually need, food, shelter, energy, the prices for these things have like kind of skyrocketed in the last few decades, which obviously means if the price for something goes up, there's like way more demand than supply. So it seems like the actual physical basis of the economy is not doing well at all. And we basically run off on these tangents with AI just being the newest, but like pretty much every tech company is like some sort of like service or some app that no one really asked for and no one needed. You have like some probably not very charismatic uh, CEO who basically tells all these like rich assholes like, "Oh, this is gonna be the future. You don't want to miss out on this," and they throw money at him, even though it's not profitable and it will not be profitable for like a long time. OpenAI is far, far away from profitability. Who knows if it can ever be profitable? So I think this is a big issue that a lot of the capital is spent on these mirages, like on these technologies that really aren't that useful. We don't really need them. And like the actual physical things that not just the average Joe Schmo, like the poor person on the street needs, but actually a country needs. There's not enough money invested on that. This brings me kind of to the next point, like outsourcing. I've heard it called that the economy is becoming an imperial economy. What is happening is that a lot of jobs are getting outsourced, or they're being given to immigrants who will work for cheaper wages than the locals. Obviously, like for social stability reasons, this is not good. People basically wage labor is for most people the way to earn money to afford living. If you take that away from them, you're gonna have a population that is basically ripe for revolution. So already from that standpoint, it's not a good idea to do this. But you're basically removing people that are could be perfectly productive from the economy. And I mean, what you can't really let them starve. So what happens with them? They become dependent. They live off of the welfare state. if you compare it to a historical period, it's what happened in the Roman Empire when they had this large influx of slaves. Basically, you had the native Roman peasant population, the plebeians. They weren't really able to find jobs. They couldn't really work for a living. So what the Roman state did, it financed the grain dole, where basically people who otherwise would have starved, given free grain to make bread by the government. And you have this paradoxical situation where you have this large labor force that is unproductive, that are living from the government, while you continuously import new cheap slave labor. And of course, for profits, for your individual profits, if you're like a rich person owning some sort of business, I guess, it's you're gonna have high profits. It's amazing for you. You get like these cheap slaves that you don't need to pay at all. You just need to like feed and clothe them a bit. Overall, for like a from the national standpoint, it's probably not very efficient because you have this large cohort of society, the unemployed, that are not being used, even though they're perfectly useful, like they're capable of working. And I think we see this nowadays in the West with people call it neoliberalism. I think it's just financialization, or maybe you can call it like the economy is entering an imperial stage. You have the native working class, underclass, that cannot find jobs. They're not being utilized. They're basically sitting on their ass, not doing anything, and they want to do work. Like, people want meaningful work. They want to work for a living. They want to feel useful, and they don't want to feel dependent on someone else. They want to make a living. They want to be able to live their life based off on their own labor. I think that's very important for like the mental health of people, that you don't feel like that you don't feel useless, that you feel like you're useful, you're doing something for society, and you're also getting benefits from it yourself. The benefit being that you can, well, continue to exist with dignity. And I think this is what has happened with financialization, that a lot of companies have basically offshored or build their pool of employees with cheap immigrant labor, because individually it's good for their profits, it's good in the short term, but in the long term it's gonna be disastrous. Like, let's not focus on immigration. Let's just talk about offshoring. Which, okay, if you like offshore, I don't know, like sewing, like clothes making, yeah, you can get that done in Bangladesh. I think Bangladesh is like one of the main sources of cheap clothes. Like, okay, that's probably not too damaging. But let's say you don't do it just for clothes, you do it for medicine. I think India has a big pharmaceutical industry. Let's say you produce these medications that are like a regular necessity. Let's say you produce those in India. What if India suddenly like doesn't want to sell them to you anymore? What if they like put tariffs on it or like embargo you? I mean, for obvious reasons, producing very important products outside from your own nation is a big risk. Like, you are not self-sufficient if there is a political crisis or something. And through most of human history, like, people knew this and avoided it. But for some reason, with this neoliberalism, I think it's this very weird liberal capitalism, the idea that, oh, free trade is like a good in itself and everyone will always do free trade. Well, I think we're already seeing now with more global tensions that this is not going to work out. And you can see Trump with like tariffs trying to bring back production to the US. We'll see how much it will actually work. So yeah, this is kind of interesting that I, being some random retard on the internet, can kind of see obvious problems, but somehow our political leaders in the last 50 years or so couldn't see those problems, or did they just not care? I think one quick example would be OpenAI, which is obviously not profitable, but the Sam Altman who runs OpenAI, he's obviously still getting rich off of it. We have this funny situation where we have basically created an incentive to, well, scam people. He's basically making a product that is not profitable, that like no one really asked for it, but he's getting rich off of it. And the capital that is allocated to OpenAI is, well, because it's spent on OpenAI, it can't be spent on any other business that might actually improve the lives of people. And I think Sam Altman is probably smart enough to know what he is doing, which makes it even worse. Or maybe he's not that smart. Who knows? Like a lot of these tech bros are, well, kind of just look at Elon Musk. They're not the sharpest light bulbs in the shed, so to say. Oh yeah, last point to kind of drive home the point how truly cooked we are, because you can't just decide like, oh, today I'm going to produce a car or a microchip. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to work your way up, like how China did. It's probably the best example when they started out producing these simple low complexity products, like basically garbage plastics, but they were able to produce them because they had so much cheap labor. So China produced them and sold them to everyone else, and everyone else bought them. Well, the West bought them from China because it was more cheaper than to produce it ourselves. And you can see how China is moving up the value added chain, like how they are making, like I think they used to make this very simple microchips that can't run on like very high end products, but slowly they're trying to move up the value added chain. And obviously, like the best microchips are still made in Taiwan by TSMC, I think they're called. But I think China is like definitely aiming to make their own microchip industry, and this is like the most sophisticated example, like, of when it comes to producing things like microchips. Is high-end microchips is like the most difficult thing to produce. But yeah, in the West we kind of stopped producing a lot of things. That know-how is now lost. You cannot just like build a factory and start producing things. You need workers that have the knowledge to operate machines and stuff like that. So rebuilding that, I don't think we even have fully realized the problem. Like a lot of politicians still think we can just keep producing financial products and we can coast on that. No, we need to produce physical goods because people need physical goods. Like how do you even get physical goods? You pay for them, but you need to pay for things. You need money. How do you get money? You sell something else. If we have nothing to sell and only want to buy things, you can kind of see how we're gonna run into problems eventually. So yeah, if I think Trump even understands this on some base level. So I don't know how successful he will be bringing back manufacturing to the US, but it's kind of what we should do. But I guess we need to start from the bottom again, which is gonna be pretty unpleasant because to be competitive making simple products, you need cheap labor. So this does not bode well for the working class in the West. Yeah, you can already see that we are like running out of the model is kind of running out of steam. It gets more and more difficult for people to find like these office jobs where you're just like a paper pusher, a professional email writer, because we don't have the physical basis to the economy. So the financialized, the clerical overhead of people doing like office work, if you don't have the base to like keep the whole structure going, you also can't finance the people on top, the let's call them elite, so like the college educated people with degrees. Yeah, I don't know if there's a good way to fix this that is not super painful. But yeah, at least we need to be honest with ourselves and realize how cooked we are, and that we need to get out of this situation. Oh yeah, just one more point about like AI and the physical economy. Like, what do people need as the very base of their existence? Food and shelter. That's like the very base needs that have to be met so you don't die. Can AI build a house? Can AI grow food? Like, I don't even need to answer. Like, you know the answer. So how is AI gonna help with the very base load of the economy? I mean, are you gonna pay the construction worker in fucking AI generated Wojak images? Are you gonna AI generate a Marvel movie to pay a farmer with? That's obviously it's not gonna work. I don't know if how close we are to like automating a lot of stuff with like maybe the AI running robots, but I don't think we're very close. There's a lot of jobs that need to be done by people, like physical labor that needs to be done by humans. And yeah, as long as we keep investing in AI instead of investing in doing labor that actually produces valuable goods and products, yeah, we're gonna be in for a hell of a surprise. Yeah, I think that does it for this video. Might talk more about this specific subject in the future, who knows. That's it. Keep your heads up and don't forget to, I don't know,